All right, so you know how this works. You send us your sources, and we dive in.
Yeah, deep dive.
A deep dive into all the info, all the key points.
The stuff that makes you,
The unforgettable moments.
the things that stick with you.
Yeah, exactly. A shortcut to, like, really understanding a topic.
I got it.
Okay, so today we're going into a case that really, like, gripped the Pacific Northwest and the whole country, actually.
Yeah.
The story of Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer.
Chilling case.
Right. A lot to unpack.
A lot to unpack. And you sent us the Wikipedia page, the Gary Ridgway Wikipedia page.
So that's our source.
That's what we're going with, yeah.
Yeah.
So our goal, right, is to go through all the major points of this case.
Right.
I mean, how his life went, how the murders, progressed.
The investigation.
The investigation, which was like super long.
Mm-hmm.
The plea bargain, which, people have a lot to say about that. And just the overall impact,
Chase, that's really stuck with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think starting with his early life is, like, essential. I think you really have to understand where he came from to even start to grasp how things got so wrong.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So Gary Ridgway was born in Salt Lake City, Utah,
Okay.
February 18th, 1949. He was the middle child,
Okay.
3 boys.
Hmm.
And from the get-go, it seems like his home life was pretty rough.
Rough how?
Well, like, relatives have described his mom as very controlling,
Okay.
domineering even, and apparently there were a lot of fights between his parents.
Like arguments.
Yeah, bad arguments. And his father was a bus driver, and this is kind of interesting. He would often complain about sex workers.
Huh. And that's relevant because, his victims.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if there was, like, some kind of early exposure to this kind of, negativity around sex workers.
Like a seed planted.
Right. And it wasn't just arguments. There was physical punishment.
Like hitting.
Yeah. His mom would use belts or sticks for, like, even small things. It seems like a pretty harsh environment to grow up in.
Definitely not a good start.
And then as he gets older, into adolescence, things get, well, they take a darker turn.
How so?
It's been reported that he had these, like, really conflicting feelings towards his mother.
Like
Anger and sexual attraction. He even had fantasies about killing her.
Whoa. That's disturbing. I mean, that's a big red flag.
And on top of all of this, he had learning difficulties.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was dyslexic, had to repeat a year of high school.
So, like, academically, he was struggling.
Yeah, and there's this incident when he was just 16 that is just really chilling.
What happened?
He stabbed a 6-year-old boy.
Oh, my God.
The boy survived, thankfully, but it's just like a glimpse into this really dark potential for violence, even at a young age.
Yeah, that's huge, like, to be that young and commit such a violent act.
And, his IQ was reported to be in the low 80s.
So maybe some cognitive limitations, too.
Right. So if you look at all of this together, it's a pretty troubling picture, right? A really difficult home life, potential emotional and psychological issues.
The learning disabilities, the violence, it's a lot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as he becomes an adult, those patterns continue.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he graduates high school in 1969 and marries his high school sweetheart, Claudia Craig,
Okay.
in 1970, but that only lasts 2 years.
Short marriage.
Yeah. And then he joins the Navy, serves in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. So he sees combat.
Yeah, he was on a supply ship, but he did see some action. And during this time, he has a lot of sexual encounters with sex workers.
Okay.
He even contracts gonorrhea, but continues to have unprotected sex. So it's like this period in his life, it's formative, but in a really disturbing way, like maybe desensitizing him to violence, to risk.
Right.
His second marriage in 1973 to Marcille Louise Brown also ends in divorce.
Okay.
1981. And it was reportedly due to infidelity on both sides, but there's this one detail that's really scary. Marcia claimed that he put her in a chokehold.
Oh, my God. Like, that's how he killed his victim.
Exactly. It's this chilling foreshadowing.
Scary.
And during the second marriage, there's this really interesting thing that happens. He has a religious conversion.
Oh, wow. Like, becomes religious?
Yeah, super religious. He's proselytizing, reading the Bible out loud, like demanding that his wife be super strict in her beliefs too.
Is so devout.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He keeps soliciting sex workers.
Wait, so he's like super religious but still seeing sex workers? That's a huge contradiction.
I know, it's wild, and it gets even weirder. He wants his wife to have sex with him in public, sometimes in the very areas where his victims' bodies would later be found.
So not just a contradiction, but like almost flaunting it.
Right. It's like this complete disconnect between what he's saying and what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty messed up.
And it's not just Marcia. Ex-wives, girlfriends, they all report that he had this, like, insatiable sexual appetite.
Like how so?
Demanding sex multiple times a day, wanting it in public places, in the woods.
So this fixation with sex, it's a constant.
Yeah, and he even admitted to it later. He called it a love-hate relationship with sex workers.
Elevate.
Yeah, complaining about them, but then using their services. And during his plea hearing, he said he hated prostitutes and didn't want to pay them.
So resentment, maybe.
Maybe. It's like this twisted mix of lust and anger.
Like he's drawn to them, but also hates them. That's a scary combination.
And through all this, he did have a son with Marcia. It's almost hard to imagine, right? This guy who's capable of such darkness also has this, like, seemingly normal family life.
Yeah, the human mind is complicated. Compartmentalization.
Exactly.
So we've got a pretty good picture of his background now.
Right. But now we have to talk about the murders.
The real heart of the matter.
Yeah. And the estimated number of victims is just, it's staggering. At least 71 teenage girls and women.
God, 71. That's just unthinkable.
I know. And it seems like most of the murders took place between 1982 and 1984.
Yep.
And his victims were mostly sex workers or runaways that he'd pick up along Pacific Highway South.
So very specific targeting.
Yeah. And he would use this really disturbing tactic. He would show them a picture of his son to gain their trust.
Oh my God, that's so manipulative to use his own son like that.
It's awful. And he mostly killed them by strangulation.
Strangulation.
Yeah, with his hands or ligatures, and usually after sex.
Yeah.
And the way he disposed of the bodies, it was so calculated. He would dump them in wooded areas near the Green River, the airport, all over South King County.
And wasn't there, like, the necrophilia aspect, too?
Yes, he admitted to that. But he said he did it not for more sexual gratification, but to, like, lessen the need to kill again.
So trying to control himself, in a way. I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
Yeah, it's a really disturbing detail. And he was smart about covering his tracks.
How so?
Contaminating the dump sites with other people's belongings, even taking some remains to Oregon to throw off the investigation.
So deliberate.
Yeah. And there's this one thing that always gets me about the first victim that was found. July 1982. They found this unique spray paint on the clothing around her neck, but they didn't test it for 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. And it turned out it was the paint from his work. So if they had tested it back then, who knows how many lives could have been saved.
That's a chilling thought.
It is. And that's when they formed the Green River Task Force. They were determined to catch this guy.
Right. And didn't they even consult with Ted Bundy?
Yeah, in 1984.
Wow. Like asking another serial killer for advice.
Desperate times, I guess. And you know what? Bundy gave them some insights that actually turned out to be pretty accurate. Like, he said the killer was probably revisiting the dump sites for sex, and that turned out to be true.
So Bundy's twisted mind, in a way, helped the investigation.
It's crazy. And FBI Special Agent Johnny Douglas, he developed a profile, too.
To try to narrow down the suspect pool.
Yeah. And get this, during this whole time, Ridgeway is actually arrested twice for prostitution.
What?
Yeah, in 1982 and 2001.
But they didn't connect him to the murders.
Not right away. But he does become a suspect in 1983 after Marie Malvar disappears.
What happened?
Her boyfriend and her pimp, they both saw a truck like hers at Ridgway's house. And there were other tips, too, pointing to him. But he passed a polygraph.
Polygraphs.
Oh, no. And then he gets married again.
A third marriage.
Yeah, in 1988, to Judith Mawson. They started dating around 85. And when she moved into his house, she noticed there was no carpet.
No carpet.
Yeah. And later, detectives wondered if he had used it to, wrap the bodies.
Oh, my God.
And she would talk about him leaving for overtime really early in the morning.
Which was probably when he was killing.
Probably. And she had no idea. She didn't find out about any of this until 1987.
Wow. Living with a serial killer and not knowing.
Can you imagine? And Ridgway said that his kill rate went down when he was with Judith. He said he loved her.
So he's trying to say love stopped him from killing.
Yeah, basically. And it's true that only 3 of the known victims were killed after they got married. Still, 3 too many.
Absolutely. And Judith actually believes that she saved lives.
By being with him.
Yeah. It's a really sad thought, but you can see how she would cling to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, in 1987, the police take hair and saliva samples from Ridgeway.
Oh, this is for DNA.
Right. But it would be years before DNA technology was advanced enough to really use that.
So they had to wait.
Yeah. And it wasn't until November 30th, 2001 that they finally arrest him.
At the Kenworth truck factory.
Yeah, where he worked as a spray painter.
Right. And that DNA evidence was the key. Right.
Yeah, they were finally able to match the semen found on the victims to his DNA.
Science finally caught up.
It did. And they initially indict him for 4 victims, but then they find the spray paint evidence from Kenworth.
Connecting him to more victims.
3 more, yeah.
Wow. So that's 7 victims right there.
Right. But then things get, well, complicated.
How so?
He ends up making a plea deal.
A plea deal for all those murders.
Yeah. They move him to a lower security facility in August 2003. So that was a sign.
Yeah. And then on November 5th, 2003, he pleads guilty to 48 counts of aggravated first-degree murder.
48.
48. And in exchange, he avoids the death penalty.
And in exchange for what?
For helping them locate the remains of his victims and giving them detailed confessions.
So a lot of information in exchange for his life.
Exactly.
Oh.
And he admits to killing all his victims in King County and that he took 2 of the bodies to Oregon to mislead the police.
So he's admitting to everything.
Yeah. And the deputy prosecutor at the time, Jeffrey Baird, he said that they were able to identify 41 victims because of this deal.
Wow. So without the deal, a lot of families would never have known what happened to their loved ones.
That's right.
So that's the trade-off.
Yeah. And the King County prosecuting attorney, Norm Malang, he said that he believed they could only have solved 7 of the cases without the plea bargain.
So a huge difference.
Huge. And he said this agreement was the only way to get to the truth, to give the family some closure.
A really tough decision.
Oh, absolutely.
What was his sentence?
On December 18th, 2003, he's sentenced to 48 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus 480 years for tampering with evidence.
So basically, he's never getting out.
Nope. And then later, another victim's remains are found, and he gets another life sentence. So 49 in total.
Wow. So he did lead them to more bodies.
Yeah, in 2003, he took them to the remains of Pammy and Etta Vent, Marie Malvar, and April Buttram. And then later, they find the skulls of Tracy Winston and Rebecca Marrero.
And wasn't there another one identified recently?
Yeah, just last year, Lori Ann Respotnik. She was known as Bone 17 for a long time.
So sad.
Yeah. And in the end, he confessed to more murders than any other serial killer in U.S. history.
It's unbelievable.
I know. He confessed to 48 murders over 5 months of interviews, and 42 of those were already on the police's list of probable victims.
So they were already looking at him for those.
Yeah, and initially he said he had killed 65 women, but then later he changed it to 71.
So we may never know the true number.
It's possible. And he didn't admit to having sex with them before killing them until after he was sentenced.
Really? Why do you think he held that back?
Who knows? Maybe shame, maybe trying to control the narrative.
Maybe. And he was very clear about why he targeted prostitutes. He said they were easy to pick up and that he hated most of them.
That same love-hate thing.
So disturbing.
And he also confessed to the necrophilia, but claimed he started burying the victims later to stop himself from doing that.
A twisted form of self-control.
Yeah, it's just, it's all so horrific.
So where is he now?
Well, he was initially in solitary confinement at Washington State Penitentiary, but then in 2015, they transferred him to a federal prison in Colorado.
Why?
It's not totally clear, but there was a lot of public outcry. People wanted him to stay in Washington to be accessible for the ongoing investigations.
So they brought him back.
Yeah, later that year. And then in 2024, they took him to King County Jail for a bit.
Why was that?
Well, they sealed the transport order, but then in March of 2025, they unsealed it. And it turns out they were trying to get him to help them find more remains.
So the search continues.
It does.
It's amazing to me how many victims they've been able to identify, even for all these years.
Yeah, it's really a testament to the dedication of the investigators and the advancements in DNA technology.
Like Lori Ann Respotnik, finally getting her name back.
And Tammy Charlene Lyles, too.
And Wendy Marie Stevens and Sandra Denise Major, all identified years later.
It's incredible.
But there were still so many unknowns.
Yeah, the task force has a list of 6 suspected victims that they couldn't charge him with.
And there are probably others that we don't even know about.
It's likely, and some of these cases are so complicated he denies some and then he confesses to others, but they haven't found the remains.
It's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking for the families who still don't have answers. Like, there's the case of Cora Christmas McGurk.
Who's that?
She was the mother of NBA player Martell Webster. Oh, wow.
And her body was never found.
That's awful.
Yeah. So, we've been talking about the facts of the case, the investigation, the legal proceedings, but there's another aspect to this story that's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
How it's been portrayed in popular culture. I mean, this case has been everywhere. Artwork, documentaries, movies, books, music, TV shows.
It's true. It's like it's seeped into our collective consciousness.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what is it about this case that fascinates us so much?
I mean, I think part of it is just the sheer scale of it, the number of victims, the brutality. It's almost too horrific to comprehend, but also impossible to look away from.
Like, there's this one piece of art that shows Ridgway's face made up of tiny portraits of his victims.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's haunting.
It is. It
Yeah.
really drives home the human cost. And then there are all the documentaries and movies. Some are trying to be accurate, some are fictionalized. But they all tap into this fascination with true crime, trying to understand the mind of a killer.
And the investigators, too. Right. It's like we're trying to make sense of something that's fundamentally senseless.
And all the books, too.
So many books. From investigators, prosecutors, even Ridgway's wife. All trying to offer different perspectives, different pieces of the puzzle.
And the music, the TV shows, it's everywhere.
It's like this case has become a kind of cultural touchstone, a warning, maybe.
Yeah, about the darkness that can hide in plain sight.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are we left with?
A lot to think about.
Yeah. A troubled life, a monstrous
A
outcome,
complex investigation, a controversial plea bargain,
and a legacy that continues to haunt us.
and most importantly, the memory of the victims.
Hmm.
All those lives lost.
And the families left behind.
Right.
So I guess the final thought I want to leave you with is this. What do you think about plea bargains in cases like this?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It-
How do you balance justice for the few with the need to find out the truth, to bring closure to so many families?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
It really is.